What if I told you that one of the biggest, most conservative financial institutions on the planet, a bank that literally has America in its name, is quietly making moves that could directly and dramatically impact the fate of the Iraqi Dinar and Vietnamese Dong? This isn't a rumor from a fringe forum or a hyped-up Telegram channel. We are talking about Bank of America, a pillar of the global financial establishment. For years, the dream of a revaluation, or RV, for the dinar and dong has lived almost exclusively in the hearts of individual holders in specialized currency communities, often dismissed by mainstream finance as a speculative long shot. But the landscape is shifting beneath our feet, and the signals emerging from the hallowed halls of institutions like Bank of America are not just whispers anymore. They are indicators of a fundamental recalibration of global economic strategy, a recalibration that places currencies like the IQD and VND in a position they haven't been in for decades. The key to understanding this isn't in waiting for a specific headline that screams RV, but in piecing together a mosaic of strategic decisions, geopolitical realignments, and raw economic necessity that points toward an inevitable convergence. Think about it this way: the global economy can no longer run efficiently on the same old engine. The post-World War II financial order is straining, new economic blocs are forming, and resource-rich nations like Iraq and manufacturing powerhouses like Vietnam are no longer content to be peripheral players whose currencies are kept artificially low for the convenience of others. They are demanding their seat at the table, and that seat comes with a currency that reflects their true economic value and potential. This is where Bank of America's actions become so critically important. Their global treasury and risk management strategies are a bellwether for what the smart money is anticipating. When they begin to deepen their operational capacity, their liquidity pools, and their settlement infrastructure for currencies that were once considered exotic or niche, they aren't doing it for charity. They are doing it because their internal models, their access to privileged data, and their conversations with central banks and governments are telling them that the probability of a significant monetary event for these nations has increased from possible to probable. They are positioning their billion-dollar balance sheet to be ready for a new reality. This goes far beyond simple forex trading. This is about being able to facilitate billion-dollar oil contracts for Iraq in dinar, about processing massive inflows of foreign direct investment into Vietnam in dong, and about creating the financial plumbing necessary for these nations to engage in international trade on their own terms. The old model, where all global trade had to be funneled through the US dollar or the euro, is creating friction and resentment. A revaluation is not merely about making current holders wealthy. It is a fundamental prerequisite for Iraq to achieve true monetary sovereignty and for Vietnam to cement its status as the next Asian tiger economy. It is about correcting a historical imbalance. The current exchange rates for the IQD and VND are relics of a different time. For Iraq, a time of conflict and sanctions, and for Vietnam, a time of a closed, centrally planned system. Neither of those descriptions fits the reality of these nations today. Iraq is slowly but steadily rebuilding, sitting atop some of the world's most valuable oil reserves, while Vietnam has become a global manufacturing hub, a darling of international investors, and a strategic counterweight in the Asia-Pacific region. Their currencies, however, have not yet caught up to this new geopolitical and economic truth. The process of catching up is what we call a revaluation. And when a titan like Bank of America starts building the ark, it's because they can sense the rain coming. They are preparing for a flood of new capital, new trade flows, and a new monetary landscape. This is the real story, the deep story, that goes beyond the daily news churn. It's a story of tectonic plates shifting in the global financial system, and the tremors are starting to be felt. Before we dive even deeper into what Bank of America's moves truly mean and the specific timeline we might be looking at, I need you to do something right now. If this analysis makes sense to you, if you can see the bigger picture coming into focus, then hit that like button and subscribe to the channel with notifications on. What we are discussing is a once-in-a-generation financial shift, and you do not want to miss a single update. Your support is what allows me to continue this vital research. Now let's get into the specifics of what Bank of America is actually doing. So let's pull back the curtain on what Bank of America is actually doing, because it's not about a press release announcing support for the dinar. It's far more strategic and nuanced than that. The signals are embedded in their operational expansions, their job postings for specialized treasury roles in Hanoi and Erbil, their deepening correspondent banking relationships with the Trade Bank of Iraq and the State Bank of Vietnam, and their quiet advancements in cross-border payment platforms that can handle high-volume transactions in these currencies. This isn't a public relations campaign, it's the unglamorous, essential work of building financial infrastructure. Think of it as a company like Apple quietly securing long-term contracts for cobalt mines 5 years before they announce a new electric car. They are securing the supply chain for a future product. For Bank of America, the product is the ability to seamlessly facilitate commerce in a post-revaluation world, a world where a German company needs to pay for Iraqi oil in dinar, or a South Korean tech giant needs to build a factory in Vietnam and pay its contractors and suppliers in Dong. To handle that volume and that level of complexity, the existing limited forex channels are utterly insufficient. They would collapse. Therefore, the very act of building this robust, institutional-grade infrastructure is a de facto bet that the liquidity and the international demand for these currencies will explode in the foreseeable future. They are anticipating the moment when these currencies become fully convertible, no longer pegged or managed in a way that suppresses their true market value. Now, let's address the elephant in the room. Why would a powerful Western institution like Bank of America want this to happen? The answer is simple: fee-based revenue and strategic positioning. A revaluation of the IQD and VND would represent one of the largest wealth transfers and capital reallocations in modern financial history. Trillions of dollars of nominal value would be unlocked overnight. The sheer volume of financial activity that would follow, currency exchanges, international wire transfers, bond issuances, foreign direct investment flows, and the creation of new derivative products would generate astronomical fees for the global banks that are prepared to be the primary conduits for all that money. Bank of America, JP Morgan, Citi, they are in a race to become the central hub for the new financial ecosystem that will emerge. It's a land grab for the future of global finance. Furthermore, from a geopolitical standpoint, the United States has a vested interest in seeing Iraq's economy stabilize and become self-sufficient, reducing its reliance on ad hoc aid and creating a stable partner in a volatile region. A strong, valuable Iraqi dinar is fundamental to that stability. Similarly, as the U.S. looks to diversify its supply chains away from China, prosperous and financially integrated Vietnam is a crucial strategic ally. A stronger Vietnamese Dong would increase Vietnam's purchasing power for U.S. goods and technology, binding the two economies closer together. So this isn't just a story about currency speculators, it's a story about macroeconomics and geopolitics aligning with institutional finance. The path to revaluation is not a light switch being flipped, it's a process, and we are in the middle of that process right now. We've seen Iraq meet key benchmarks from the International Monetary Fund. We've seen them work towards Chapter V compliance and settle their international debts. We've seen them upgrade their financial messaging systems to international standards. Each of these steps is a brick being laid on the road to monetary sovereignty. Vietnam, on the other hand, has been consistently praised by the World Bank for its economic management and has been gradually loosening its control over the Dong's trading ban, allowing it to appreciate more naturally in response to market forces. These are not isolated events, they are coordinated, deliberate steps towards a common goal. Bank of America sees this coordinated march, and they are not just observing it, they are actively positioning themselves to profit from its inevitable conclusion. They are reading the map and building the roads before anyone else even knows the destination. For the individual holder of IQD or VND, this institutional validation is the most powerful signal you could possibly receive. It means the dream is not a fantasy, it is a future event that the world's most powerful financial engineers are now actively preparing for. This is where the story gets even more compelling, because understanding the why leads us to the most critical question, the when. The timeline is becoming clearer. And in the final part of this video, I'm going to connect all these dots to a specific set of upcoming triggers that could accelerate this process dramatically. But I need to know that this deep dive analysis is providing you with real value. If you are still with me, if this is making sense and giving you a perspective you haven't heard anywhere else, then please show your support. Leave a comment down below and simply write infrastructure so I know you understand the core message here. And if you haven't already, smash that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. The final piece of this puzzle is the most important one, and you will want to see it the moment it drops. Now we arrive at the most critical part of our discussion, the timeline and the specific, tangible triggers that could move this entire process from the back offices of global banks to the front pages of every financial newspaper in the world. The preparation phase, which we've detailed, is nearly complete. The infrastructure is being built. The geopolitical alignments are solidifying. So what is the catalyst? What is the final piece of the puzzle that transforms this probability into reality? The answer lies in a convergence of three powerful forces, any one of which could be the spark. Together they form an unstoppable wave. The first and most immediate trigger is the petrodollar equation. For decades, the global oil trade has been denominated almost exclusively in US dollars, a system that created immense demand for the dollar and provided the United States with a significant strategic advantage. However, we are now witnessing the early stages of a profound shift. Major oil-producing nations, including key players in the Middle East, are increasingly open to accepting other currencies for their oil, including the Chinese yuan, the euro, and crucially, their own local currencies. Imagine a scenario where Iraq, bolstered by its new financial infrastructure and growing economic confidence, begins to sign long-term oil contracts priced and settled in Iraqi dinar. This single act would create an instant, massive, and structural global demand for the dinar that simply does not exist today. It would no longer be a currency held by speculators hoping for a windfall, but a currency required by nations and corporations to purchase one of the world's most vital commodities. This fundamental shift in the petrodollar system would force a revaluation overnight. The market would have no choice. The second trigger is the ticking clock of global debt and the impending launch of a new global digital currency system. Nations worldwide are drowning in debt, and a global monetary reset is no longer a conspiracy theory, but a topic of serious discussion at institutions like the IMF and the World Bank. Part of this reset involves the integration of digital currency platforms, a space where both Iraq and Vietnam are making significant advancements. A revaluation of undervalued currencies would be a strategic tool in this reset, allowing for a more balanced and sustainable starting point for a new digital financial architecture. It would allow countries like Iraq and Vietnam to enter this new system not as debtors with weak currencies, but as empowered partners with strong, stable monetary units. The third and final trigger is the simple, undeniable force of economic reality. Vietnam's economy is growing at a blistering pace, and its currency is fundamentally undervalued given its export strength, foreign reserves, and inflow of foreign direct investment. This creates immense inflationary pressure. The State Bank of Vietnam is already walking a tightrope, allowing for gradual appreciation while trying to maintain export competitiveness. There will come a point, likely triggered by a shift in US Federal Reserve policy or a sudden surge in inflation, where maintaining the current peg or trading band becomes more costly than letting the currency find its true market value. For Iraq, the economic reality is its vast oil and gas wealth. The current exchange rate is a severe distortion that hinders its ability to rebuild, invest in its infrastructure, and provide for its citizens without relying on a complex web of financial intermediaries. The pressure for monetary sovereignty is building from within, and the government knows that a stronger dinar is the key to unlocking its nation's full potential. When you combine these three triggers, the breakdown of the petrodollar, the move toward a global monetary reset, and the internal economic pressures, you have a recipe for rapid, transformative change. The waiting game is not about if anymore, it's about watching for which of these triggers ignites first. Bank of America sees this volatile mix on the horizon. They are not waiting for the explosion. They are soundproofing the building and preparing to manage the aftermath. For you, the holder, this means that patience and perspective are your greatest assets. You are not merely holding a currency, you are holding a key to a new financial era that is already dawning. This is the full picture, from the initial signals to the final, inevitable triggers. If this three-part series has fundamentally changed your understanding of what is happening with the Iraqi Dinar and Vietnamese Dong, then I have done my job. But the conversation doesn't end here. The situation is dynamic and new developments happen daily. Your mission now is to become an informed participant, not a passive observer. Share this video with every serious holder you know. Let's get this information out to the entire community. Go to the comment section and tell me which of the three triggers you believe will be the one to start the chain reaction. Is it the petrodollar shift, the global reset, or pure economic pressure? Let's get a discussion going. And most importantly, if you have not subscribed yet, what are you waiting for? Click that subscribe button and hit the bell icon, because when the news breaks, you will hear it here first with the deep, analytical context you need to understand what it truly means for your future. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next update.